Hello! In today's video, we're going to learn how to find the perfect strum pattern for whatever song you might be trying to play along with. Now in this, we're going to learn how to identify the pulse to give us our sense of timing. We're going to learn how to create rhythms, which are kind of our strum patterns as we go through it. And most importantly, we're going to learn how to create variations with those so we don't just get locked into the same strum pattern over and over throughout the whole song. So if you're somebody who's struggled with finding the right patterns for the right songs when you're looking online, you're in the right place, because today we're going to do a little bit of a crash course on the process I take and hopefully how that can help you with identifying that perfect pattern for whatever song it is that you're playing. So step one of this is going to be to find the pulse of the song. And when I say the pulse, what that really means is the tempo of the song. And it's actually relatively easy to find this pulse or tempo. My favorite way to do it is to clap my hands, snap my fingers, or tap my foot. Essentially, the tempo or the pulse is just like the beat of the song. And if you're able to clap your hands along with music, you're going to be able to find that sense of pulse. Now, we're going to be working on a song throughout this, which is a wonderful cover of Caledonia by my good friend John Mona's band Stark Raving Plaid. And if we listen to this for just a moment, we're going to listen just a bit. Try to clap your hands or snap your fingers with this. It's not that hard to do, right? It's kind of quick. But tap your feet, bob your head, snap your fingers, clap your hands, whatever you have to do. If you can do that, you've just found the pulse. Now, something that's really important is when you've found the pulse, we need to figure out what the timing is of the song. And to do this, we simply count to a number, and then we start over when we feel like we're supposed to with this number. So if I put this on and I start counting with it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Well, that's probably too many numbers, isn't it, right? Typically, music is going to be broken down into the number 4, sometimes 3, sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's 5 if you're a Dave Brubeck fan. But it's usually going to be 4 or 3 for most songs. Not all of them follow this, but luckily most do. So if I count this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You hear how naturally it starts at 1, goes to 4, and kind of wants to start over. If I tried it with 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. See how it doesn't quite sync up or line up? And that's because this song is in 4. Not in 3. There are lots of other songs that will be in 3 that we can use. Silent Night is a good example this time of year, but it's really finding that sort of pulse and how many of those pulses are per what we call bar, which is just when we feel like it's supposed to repeat again. Now, with those two pieces of information, we can pick up our ukuleles and start working on how to create a strum with it. And this is where it gets really cool and maybe a little bit different than how you've worked on it in the past. So go ahead and grab your ukulele and go ahead and play my favorite chord on the ukulele, which sometimes is called the Z chord, you might have heard. Let's take your fretting hand and just grab the ukulele. Just lightly touch all the strings and start practicing just going down and up now with your hand. This is all there is to it. What I'm doing with this is I'm actually doing the same sort of thing I would be when I'm clapping my hands or tapping my foot. I'm just making twice as many sounds as a clap or a tap would, right? If you think about it, clap, 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 clap. This is sort of a down. This is sort of an up. Down, up, 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 down, up. This is our sense of pulse that we want to use when we're working on creating a strum pattern. So go ahead and try this with me. Just simple down-ups. And what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to count this and create a pulse with this. And what we're going to use are numbers for the downstrokes and for the upstrokes. And it's going to look something like this when it's actually written out. And if we count it, it sounds something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Very good. Now the reason we're doing this is sort of like if we're being our own metronome. We're finding that pulse of the song and we're just sticking to it. And we can actually put on that track again and you can hear how this can work alongside this really well. All that we're trying to do is get in sync. This can already be hard for some people. It was for me when I was learning. This is step one. We're finding that pulse. It doesn't even sound that bad, does it? Right? It's almost like I'm a percussionist playing with them, right? Pretty neat. Now with this in mind, once you're comfortable being able to clap your hands, keep that strumming going, just like this, you have successfully completed step one, finding the pulse, right? And from here, we're going to want to work on step two, which is finding the groove, which is also known as the rhythm. And groove or rhythm is basically the strum pattern that you want to play with whatever you're doing. And the problem people have with strum patterns is they tend to make strum patterns go from nothing to the pattern, as opposed to go from everything down. What do I mean by that? Well, if we're doing this, we're doing the most concentrated sounding strum pattern we possibly can right now. Down, up, 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 down, up. That's actually technically a strum pattern, isn't it? Right? It's just a very basic one that has a lot of activity. So what we're going to do is we're going to still be doing this, and we're going to try to play louder when we feel like it. We're not going to worry about chords yet. We're just worrying about this rhythm using that Z chord we talked about a moment ago. And I'm going to try to strum louder where I feel like I want to strum louder with this tune. And I picked this one because it's got a really cool feel to it. Let's go ahead and listen again. So, you feel this groove with it. It's definitely not just, going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, right? There's a cool feel to it. So what is it? Well, let's go ahead and play along. What I really like are accents in these certain spots. Now, where are those spots? Well, if I play the rhythm all by itself, I'm basically going down, up, up, down, up, down, up. You hear how I'm playing some louder than others? These are accents, and they can be marked something like this. And what I'm doing is I'm accenting that first down, I'm accenting the second up, and I'm accenting the last down for the 1, the and of 2, and the 4. And by playing those louder, I'm creating a rhythm. Now, I'm not missing the strings or anything yet. I'm just strumming straight down and up. But I'm strumming what I feel is more important, louder, on that down, that up, and that down. Now you might be thinking, well, how am I supposed to find that? And the simple way is you just sort of sit here with that pulse and naturally strum until you feel like, oh, I want to do that thing louder. And you might not arrive at the same answer right away, and that's okay. That's part of this learning process and part of the kind of experimentation with it. And for now, trying this rhythm here with the accent on the 1, the and of 2, and the 4 is really important because you probably have already played this rhythm before. Because from here, I'm going to start missing the strings a little bit. So I did have straight down ups going on, right? Well, now I'm going to miss the strings whenever I'm not accenting them. So that makes this look like this. And you can see this is a little bit confusing, right? Well, it's these dotted arrows. The dotted arrows reflect to still move your hand in that direction as you strum, but no longer strike the strings as you're doing it. So what was that down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up with the accents on 1, and of 2, and 4 is now down, miss, miss, up, miss, miss, down, miss. More missing than strikes, but it actually sounds kind of cool. It sounds something like this. When you listen to this, it's got a groove to it, doesn't it? And it actually works really well with the example that we've been doing. If I click play here, down, up, 1, and 4, 1, and 4. You hear that sounds like the song, right? That has the feel of that sort of rhythm. Now, you might not arrive at that same answer, again, and that's okay. But when you're playing this, you can start to feel it, right? You can start to hear, hey, that's what I'm looking for with that sound. Now, the problem is this pattern is not great. It's too much missing. There's too much going on. So I'm going to just try to add some strums back in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to add strums that exist just not right after the accents. So I'm going to try to have the accents, have some space to them a little bit. And that might look something like this. So we now have down, miss, down, up, miss, up, down, miss, right? So you see that I'm doing a miss after each one of the accents. And that might sound like this to be played. Down, miss, up, down. And this is a cool strum pattern. It might be kind of familiar to you. If I play that along with this song, it's going to sound something like this. Cool sound, right? Notice it took me a second to kind of get into the groove, right? That's because there's no real count in with this recording or anything. So it's like, oh, okay, kind of following along, keep that pulse, go back to this. And as long as you sort of follow along, you'll start to get into the right sort of mold. And this pattern might look really familiar because it's basically down, down, up, without that last up. And if we add the up, it looks like this. And that's a pattern you probably played a million times before, right? And it actually works really well with this song because it has that sense of the accents in the right place. But by playing it a little bit louder at those points that I'm accenting, it makes it sound a little bit different, doesn't it? And so the perfect strum pattern for this song might be down, down, up, with accents on that 1, the and of 2 and 4. Or maybe you don't like the down, up at the end, so you just do a down. Maybe you like the pattern of it just going straight through where you're accenting some of them. All of these are the correct answer as long as you find what you like for the song. Because ultimately, there's this thing called the golden rule with when we're playing music. And that is, if it sounds good and you're in the right time, you're doing it right. It's okay for your pattern to not be the same as what everybody else is playing, as long as it fits to what you want it to sound like and that it fits the correct timing. Obviously, if you're out of time, if your pulse is off, which is just that, if you're clapping your hands out of time with everyone else, you might have a little bit of a problem, right? So that's step 2, finding the groove or the strum pattern. And in this case, we found one with this song. It could be as simple as down, down, up, down, up. Or it can be a little bit more complex, like a down, miss, up, down. It's pretty crazy how, diverse we can create different rhythms that still sound good together. But from here, we go on to step 3. And step 3 is, I think, the most important of these 3 steps, which is create variations. We don't want to just stick with one strum pattern as we go through a song. Usually. Some songs do, and that's okay. You can hear it and be able to identify, oh, this song really just wants this the whole way through. But usually songs have moments where they change a little bit, and we want to kind of change with that. And this tune is a wonderful example because it shows that. If I keep playing a bit, we can feel that groove of down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. As we listen, eventually, it's not going to do the same groove. In fact, if you listen right here, that was a little different, wasn't it? Right? It was doing this pattern the whole kind of way through, but then it got more active, didn't it? Right? And in this case, the activity is really simple. The accents became on 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you listen, and I'm just saying the accents right now with this. 4, 1, and 4, 1, and 4, 1, and 4, 1, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 4, 1, and 4, 1, and 4. I love this version of the song. It's so good. But you can hear that the rhythm changed a little bit. So how do we reflect that? Well, the easiest thing in the world that we can do is take our first pattern, our down, down, up, down, 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 And when we go to where the accents are on 1, 2, 3, 4, what if we just do 4 down strums? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or better yet, what if we do down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, where we're accenting the 1 and, or rather the 1, 2, 3, 4 and strumming on each one of these. How does that sound? Well, it actually sounds really great. And you wouldn't think it would, right? Because I'm just going down, up. But it ends up working beautifully for this song because it creates that movement and that variation that we want at that sort of moment. And so if I play this again and just rewind a little bit here, it might sound something like this going in there. I'm just doing my down, down, up, down, up right now. And you can hear I'm feeling the rhythm of the song as I do this, but I'm using strum patterns to do so, right? And this is the most important thing I'm going to talk about in today's video is strum patterns are an amazing tool to create a language and a vocabulary to be able to express yourself musically and rhythmically. But just like a vocabulary, you need diversity to be able to properly articulate how you feel. So when you're creating a strum pattern, it's okay to find a pattern that you like and lock in. But when you want to express something differently, like this song does at this moment as it works into the next section, you need to have the vocabulary to do that yourself as well. And it doesn't have to be complicated. A lot of times the easiest thing to do with strumming is just start going down and up. Find the pulse. Be moving with that. And from there, try to strum certain things louder and certain things softer. And from there, start to miss the strings to create those different sounds. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just go straight through with that down up. Just like at this point of the song, how it really wants a little bit more activity as it comes off. Now notice how this whole time with this whole exercise, I haven't played the chords once. And this is really important. When you're trying to figure out a strum pattern and rhythms that work with a song, don't confuse yourself with the chords too. It's the number one mistake people make is now you're trying to juggle. You're trying to kind of rub your tummy and pat your head at the same time. Just embrace the Z chord, mute the strings, and find that rhythm before you worry about what you're going to play with the other hand. But when you are comfortable with the rhythm and you can do this, and you start putting the chords with it and everything else, you get a really cool effect with this. And to play a little bit of this song now with it, it might sound something like this, if I remember how to play it. So I'm just doing down, down, up right now, right? But maybe I'll change it up a little bit. Now I'm doing lots of misses. Maybe no misses now. How cool is that, right? I started with simple stuff and I kind of continued with simple stuff, but I just added variations to it and created a rhythm that sounded good for the song. And if you're really scared right now because it's like, I don't know how I'm going to do that outside of this video, remember step one, find the pulse. If you can find this and you can do this, if this is all you do, you're off to a start on creating that sort of rhythm because you will naturally find opportunities to strum certain things louder as you're going through. You'll find opportunities to miss the strings, keep that hand moving, and as long as you're doing this, you're going to find something that works. Because ultimately, if this down and up is in time with the clap of the hand or the tap of the foot, you're going to be off to the races with it. And that's what makes this so much fun. And remember, that golden rule I mentioned a couple moments ago, if the pulse is correct and it sounds good and you enjoy it, then it's right. You have permission to try different patterns and try different things. A lot of teachers will sit here and say, hey, don't worry about strum patterns, just play what you feel. And that infuriates me as a learner, because when I was learning, I couldn't just feel it, and it didn't make sense how I was supposed to feel it. And so for me, working it out in these sort of ways, finding little patterns to create a vocabulary, allowed me to have the words musically that I needed to express myself. And from there, you expand your vocabulary, and eventually you just kind of speak. Just like how we communicate, you don't necessarily think of every word before you say it, and you won't necessarily think of every pattern before you play it, as you get comfortable with it and keep that pulse going. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you watched it to the end, awesome. It's a very complex concept, and I've got a PDF download over at my Patreon page that has all of the different things that we've been talking about. Some of the on-screen stuff that you saw here is all there. And so please check that out if you haven't already. And every month I do a different tutorial vote on my Patreon page. And this is what this month's winner was. This lesson's a lot different than other ones on my page, but I'm excited with the different types of offerings that we have moving forward. Lots of song tutorials, concept lessons like this. So if you haven't already, please check it out. And if you are a patron, thank you so much for your support. And thank you for everything over the years, because I love doing this, and I'm so stoked to continue doing it in the years moving forward. As always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. Check out the links in the description for links to Starkraving Plaid and other things like that. And I hope that this has helped you start to uncover some of the secrets for how you can create the perfect strum pattern and create the perfect patterns for whatever song you might be working on. Thanks so much. Talk to you guys soon.